from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's really great to see you. I appreciate you taking the time to hop on the IG Live. And everyone, just so you know, I'll put it down below, but you can ask any questions you want. This is as much of a Q&A as it is an interview. And I'm sure, you've been through so much with your entire journey and what you're building. And I think you give a lot of value to people who are, whether going through their own thing and building out their own thing or just life in general. So before we get started, I want people to know that. But also, how are you doing during this time with everything transpiring in East Africa or, everything going on in the world?
I'm doing pretty great. It's been quite a tough 2 months, I would say, but sort of just coping up with the whole situation, trying to be as productive, but at the same time take care of my mental health, and just use all these social media platforms that we have to create impact, in any way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely. We're doing the same thing with all these interviews. I think it's important to highlight people's stories and give a sense of optimism and hope during this time. But I just want to intro myself before we keep going. I'm the creator and founder of Dream Big & Co. We are a media company with a focus in creative agency work, and we love telling people's stories, brand stories. And I've just got a little whiff of what you've been doing with AAWS, and man, your stories at such a young age is pretty profound. But I would love to have you talk about updates with where you're at with that, and maybe a little background for those who might not know. I'm sure they do because they follow you, but just with that as well.
Awesome. So firstly, thank you so much for having me today. I've been following your work for a while now, and all the stories that you guys have put out is really inspiring. And really, as a young person, I look up to all the people that you guys have featured. So kudos for all your work that you've been doing. I'm Ziyaan Virji. I'm the founder and CEO of AASW, which stands for Affordable and Accessible Sanitation for Women. And we are an initiative that aims towards fighting period poverty and stigma around the world. So just to give people a bit of context, for people that don't know what that is, basically, menstruators around the world don't have access to menstrual hygiene, and because of this, they miss school, don't carry out their daily activities. And there's also a huge stigma against menstruation. So a few years ago, I was actually required to start up a project in school, and I could do anything of my choice. But I came across this really inspiring documentary on Al Jazeera, and it was about India's menstruation man, and he was doing something similar that what I'm doing right now. But at that time, I didn't really know what menstruation is, the whole idea of period poverty and what's happening. And I was just so shocked because I live in a community that's really conservative, and periods are something that's not really talked about. So at that time, I talked to my mom, and she told me that when she was younger, she also used to use cloth-based pads and was really uncomfortable at that point. And I did my research, and I found out actually 500 million menstruators around the world don't have access, and those numbers were really staggering. It's an average of around 1 in 10 girls. Um, so I decided to do something about it. So what I did was I used different online prototypes, and I sort of created my own reusable sanitary package. At that time, for my school project, the sanitary package I made would last for 6 months, and I was able to give 22 girls access, as part of that school project. So that marked the end of that project. But then I was like, this is something that I wanted to continue because as as I had those interactions with some of the people that were actually facing this issue, it really touched me, and it was so sad to see that someone my age cannot go to school, because they don't have access to a basic need. It was so sad to see that governments have a pink tax on menstrual products and it's considered a luxury item. It was so sad to see that this is something that's not talked about, and it's something that's completely normal, but it's just not, it's considered such a taboo, and so many menstruators face a lot of stigma. And that's when I decided to continue this. So we worked with a group of women with disabilities in Mombasa, Kenya. And what we did was we redesigned our packages. So now our packages last for 3 years. They're 100% biodegradable. They're also very cost effective. So cost between anywhere between $3 to $8. And what we also do is, apart from just distributing these packages, we also sort of empower menstruators to help themselves and give access to their communities. So what we do is we have an educational and stitching workshop where we teach them a basic on reproductive health, and we teach them how to use, wash, and stitch their own sanitary packages. So through that, we focus on sustainability, and we sort of allow them to be change agents in their communities and give, let's say, other menstruators access. Um, yeah, so today we've given access to around, we just reached the 1,000 mark a few days ago. So we are at 1,200, and we have teams in 7 different countries, including India, Pakistan, Tanzania, Kenya, UAE, Nigeria. We just started something in the UK as well, and we are growing. It's fully youth led, so we have over 100 youth volunteers.
Wow.
Um, yeah, that's pretty much it.
That dude, amazing. Just based off everything you said, you have such good grasp on what you're doing, and I think it's really cool, like the archetypal entrepreneurial journey where you had a problem, with your mother, and you saw it there yourself. Her explaining her story of not getting proper access to menstrual hygiene, and then, you went into just creating a solution for all. And I really want to get into the depths of how that was done, but we do have one question here, and I'll pull it up for you to see. Goals for the organization this year for you guys for AAWS.
So initially, when we started off the year, our plan was to actually work towards giving around 2,500 menstruators around the world access. That was sort of our main goal, and then we got a really good deal with Diamond Trust Bank Kenya, and they actually pledged $15,000 through one of their initiatives to help us give 2,500 girls in Kenya itself access. Um, so that was sort of a game changer. But then again, COVID happened. So then we sort of had to restructure. But the goal still stays the same. So we have in this month we are actually planning to give 1,500 menstruators access. And we'll continue for that 2,500 goal. And right now we are focusing on populations that are vulnerable to obviously COVID-19. Apart from that, we just continue to our goal is to continue breaking the stigma. I'm personally moving to university in Canada, and one of my personal goals as a founder is to sort of restructure and see how I can continue the work that I'm doing, as well as have some sort of proper leadership put in place. So that's another goal, I would say.
That's phenomenal. That's really great, and the progress you've made in such a short time is unbelievable. I want to get into, because it's really cool to see you're breaking down the stigma with something I didn't even know about too much. Like, I didn't know that there was such a little education on this topic, and that people were so there's such a bad connotation with menstruation itself. And it's so awesome to see you're starting within your community, because then from there you can scale it out and make it a bigger thing. But with someone who's so young, right, yourself, and giving advice to other people who are starting something, whether it be at a younger age or people that are older, like, what was the toughest thing when you started? Because this takes a lot of courage for you to do this.
I agree. Yeah.
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 What was one of the more challenging things that you can give advice on?
I would say personally, obviously living in a developing country, I've had the opportunity to travel to the US and actually interact with people like you that have your own organizations, and things of that sort. But I realized there's a huge difference, living in a developing country and starting off, let's say, as an entrepreneur or starting up your own organization in a developing country, because we are from a very young age, we are just motivated to and encouraged to go to school, focus on getting your grade, getting that certificate, go to university, and then maybe after that you can start something of your own. So I was quite discouraged a lot of the times by, let's say, my teachers, the people around me, when I started off this journey as a young person. But I realized over time that being a young person starting off something of your own actually has a bunch of advantages. One being that we have that ability to think of great ideas. We have access to social media and we can create social impact through that. We also have multiple opportunities to fail, try again, without sort of having responsibility, putting food on the table. So we have that room to sort of try out new things, explore ourselves, and we have that freedom to do a lot of things. Being a young person and starting off an organization, I came under my school banner, so I didn't have to get legally registered as an organization, and I was just coming under my school. So there's so many advantages of being a young person and starting off, and I think I did get a lot of like negative feedback from people around me. I also got like a lot of like hate comments. People have said things like I only do this to get more involved with girls and be closer to them. So I have obviously got a lot of negative feedback, but right now, especially being a male member in a field that's primarily, let's say, um, working towards women empowerment, I personally sort of use it as an advantage. Um, and I sort of I feel like I give a different perspective to this, and I'm also able to inspire other male members in our society to be part of this conversation. And that's something we're doing right now. Um, so yeah, I have got a ton of, I would say, negative feedback. People weren't very supportive initially, but it's all about persevering through that, using all that sort of negative feedback to persevere, push yourself, use that as motivation to start up something of your own. I realize as young people, we really have that tendency of we're really scared. We have amazing ideas, no doubt of that, but we're really scared to just start up something of our own. We think too hard about what the consequences of what we do will be. But I just advise people just start. If you're passionate about something, if you have found your purpose, I've personally found my purpose in giving back and creating social impact. So once you have found your purpose, just go for it and start up something of your own. Don't
Yeah,
care about what people would think. Don't care about how you're gonna get there. I usually say that the energy is in the purpose, not the plan.
I like.
And once you have the energy in that purpose, the plan's just gonna come on its own. And that's what I've been doing over the years. I don't know what's gonna happen in the next month, what's gonna happen in the next 3 months, but I keep on going. And I keep on, I don't know, striving.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many great things said there, and I think two things I want to touch on that I took away or like had my own realization towards is one, it's really amazing because I've noticed that when we're younger, there is a sort of ignorance to knowing things. So you're approaching like an unknown if you wanted to venture into something, and maybe part of that is cool because a lot of stories I've heard is like since you don't know what's in the path and like how hard it is, you will be able to start because you're not afraid to take that risk. Where some people who are older, who have more experience, will be like, that's too risky. Like I don't want to get into it. So I agree with your point of just starting, but also like leaning into not knowing something because you wouldn't have started if you did know how hard the journey was going to be in a way. And I love that you found your purpose at such a young age and you're continuing to lean into that. But talking about a lot of the pragmatic stuff, because everything you said is so gold, but there's such a nitty gritty stuff in terms of like funding and getting this off the ground. One person asked, how do you get funds to get the ball rolling? Like, what was that process like to get funds? Did you just tell your story and spread the word and people came to you, or what was that like?
I think it's not as easy as that. Obviously, like you just can't keep spreading the word and expecting people to give you
Yeah.
donations and things of that sort. So, personally, we started off fundraising. I did reach out to a bunch of corporates and a bunch of people that would potentially fund me. But I never, when I started off, people want to see results, and when these companies or these donors, when they don't see results, they're not gonna give you any money. So when I started off, I obviously didn't have results. I was just starting off. So I realized that's not a good way. That's not a good path to sort of take. So what I did was host my own fundraisers. We started off by selling shawarmas in our school. And we used to, at every event, we used to get some money in, buy shawarmas for 200 Kenyan shillings, sell it for 300 Kenyan shillings, make 100 Kenyan shillings profit on each shawarma. And by the end of, let's say, an event, we would sell around 300 shawarmas, make around 30,000 Kenyan shillings, which is equivalent to $300 in one night. And we used to do that, and we also used to use those fundraisers as platforms to sort of continue spreading the word, talking about what we believe in, and then things just kept on going, and we kept on persevering. There were some days we actually went in loss, and we had to throw away like shawarmas or give it away for free. But it's all about keeping consistent, because usually as young people we have all this energy in the beginning, but I realize we're not patient enough. Like, and I'm sure you know, Guy, we keeps on talking about this. We have to be, especially as teenagers or between 18 to 25, even that age. I feel like we just have to be patient and one day and keep consistency, and eventually we'll get there. I personally don't feel like I've achieved what I want to achieve, but it's all about being patient. It's all about being consistent and gradually getting there. And I'm sure all the successful people that you know have done that, and that's the reality.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a thing of being patient in the longer term, but as you are doing, continuing to persevere in the short term in like the day to day action that you're taking. I mean, guys, just so you know as well, if you want to ask any questions, I just want to like add that in there because you've asked great questions so far, but we'll field them as we go. What has been? Have you looked at people during this journey that have helped you? Because I know it's important to, whether it be like books or idols you look to, or people who have been through this path, who are certain individuals that have helped you out. Because I'm sure, you know, you'll one day be the individual that people look to, but who are those people for you?
I think thank you for asking that, because personally, as I've been growing, like, I know that I wouldn't have got here without those very few people that believed in me initially, right? Um, and right now, whenever, even if there's someone that has no idea completely and just wants to talk, I give them that opportunity to talk to me and help them out. So I'm personally not a person that reads a lot of books, but I do watch a lot of documentaries. So I
Yeah.
think there've been a lot of people I've looked up to, but in terms of people that have supported me, I know um there was a sort of transition phase in between the point in which I envisioned this to just be a project I did in school, to this being a project I sort of executed outside my school and going out there. And there was actually a lady, I was given an opportunity to do a small presentation about the work I did for my school project. And one of these ladies, her name is Shaista Aladina. She actually came, heard my presentation, and she gave me so much feedback. And I knew that she was quite involved in the whole like woman empowerment sort of field here in Tanzania. And I set up a meeting with her, and she told me, why don't you start a team here in Tanzania? You're doing work in Mombasa, but you're on summer break. Why don't you start something in Tanzania? And she gave me all this advice, and she really pushed me. She also gave me my first opportunity to go on radio and talk about some of my work.
Wow.
And then she helped me host my first ever dinner gala, where through her connections, she called like recognized personalities, celebrities, media people, activists, and all these people in Tanzania. And that was just a game changer for me, because after that point is when I saw the potential this has and the impact I can potentially create. And I think she was one of my sort of biggest, I think, supporters when I started off. And she really changed things. And until today, like, I give her all these credits. And I didn't, and surprisingly, like, all of these people that can change your life, it just, I feel like it happens in just like the most unexpected ways. Like, I didn't expect that to happen. But also, I think I'd give a major shout out to some of my very close friends. They, like, I didn't even come up with the name AASW. Like, it was one of my friends. We were just texting, and she helped me out come up with the name. When I started off, my friend Marco used to help me write captions, because I wasn't very good with like writing stuff, and he used to write captions for our Instagram profile. So it's people like this that really sort of pushed me and supported me throughout my journey. And now I have an amazing team of over 100 youth volunteers, and I don't think I would have got here without my team. So all the credit goes to my team and all the efforts they've been putting over the years. And I try my best not sort of be the face of this, because I think it's all those volunteers that and all those people that have been part of this amazing journey that deserve all the credit.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I think it's also really amazing. Kudos to the one woman who helped you a lot and tremendously. It's and the connections that were able to be formed. I think a big thing with what you're doing, especially in the beginning, is getting those connections to get donors or like funding from people who are like inside of banks or companies with big resources. That's pretty tremendous. That's really amazing. What you said, there was a transition point, right? So you went from doing it in school as a project to then bringing this thing to reality out into the world. What was a tougher thing to bridge that gap for you? Because that's a pretty substantial phase in like a completely different thing, going from like a school project to expanding it out into the world.
I agree. I think the biggest sort of thing, or the biggest challenge, I would say, from transitioning to a school project to putting this out around the world was, one, I feel like a lot of young people don't document enough. So one reason why I was able to expand was when I started off without even having the vision of making this a global thing. I used to document every nitty-gritty detail of what I was doing, how to make these packages, how to even start up your own team. And I used to document every step of the way, right? Um, and I made videos, I had all these documents, and I used to put up things on my social media, obviously. And then other young people were like, wow, is there any way I can help? And I was like, yeah, obviously you can help. Let's hop on a quick call. Let me tell you about what I'm doing, and give me your email address, and I'll send you all these documents. And right after that, it was actually a phase where things just like grew exponentially, from just having one team to having like seven, six different teams. And I was like, wow, but it was because of documentation. And I think as young people, we sort of forget that step. Just documenting and keeping track of every step, every sort of milestone, how you got there. Because obviously one day you're gonna have to pass this on to someone else, and that will make that whole process easier. But also to expand, um, to sort of even apply some of your learnings to other projects, documentation is completely important. So that was one of the major things that I think really helped me to sort of transition. But also the fact that I had to change my mindset. I had to change the way I was thinking.
Yep.
Um, Before I was just thinking, how am I gonna fulfill the requirements of my school project? But now my end goal was just to make massive impact and help menstruators around the world, and one day potentially reach out to 500 million girls around the world, right? Um, so that whole shift in mindset. I think is really important, and just believing in that there's something at the end of this, and you can get there, and no matter how many years it takes, you're gonna have to put in the work, put in the effort to get there. I also think that as young people, the way we measure success is very important to figure out, because a lot of the times, because of, let's say, this pressure of social media, pressure of so many things around us, a lot of young people measure success, let's say, by having a bank account with a trillion zeros, or getting to the best university in the world, or getting all this recognition, or getting an interview with like a major media house. I think changing that to measuring success in terms of what your purpose is, think about what impact you want to leave on the lives of others, think about what legacy you want to leave behind is so important. Um, and once you work towards that, um, all these other things like getting into university, or getting all these awards, or getting this fame and recognition, that just comes on its own. But
Yep.
if you go running after that, it's never gonna come. And that should never be the goal. The goal should be making impact, focusing on what your purpose is, and then you'll get there. And at the same time, there'll be all these side things that will just sort of be part of that journey.
Yeah, that I liked a ton of things there. It's cool because it was different than a lot of answers that I usually get, because I never heard of like documentation. I think that's crucial. I think that's, and I I think we have to talk about too. We'll get to it in the future of this live, but documentaries. I'm big on documentaries and like featured films and stuff like that, and I think it's really cool that you can compile that together and you recognize that early on. But I think a lot of this stuff rings true, and this is going to be housed on YouTube, so I want people to look back at this because there was so much gold there. And then someone asked here, oh, what's up, Mir, as well? Just so everyone knows,
Hi,
Mir
Mir.
is someone in our community. He connected us together to do this live right now. Mir, I appreciate you for this. Yeah. But someone asked the question of what's your biggest challenge when trying to implement, and you did talk about that. So he said one of the biggest challenges when starting was just like the ability to start, correct me if I'm wrong, and just like getting the ball rolling. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, a few other challenges were obviously getting funding. But I talked about how I overcame that. Being a male member in this field was initially a challenge, but now I look at it as an advantage.
Yep.
I think also just setting up your own team. I think it's all about the grind and the hustle. It's all about. So I know we haven't come to this, but I want to share this. So this month of May, we actually collaborated with an organization called Operation Period, and since 28th May is recognized internationally as Menstrual Hygiene Day, every year we would celebrate the day, but this year we decided to actually celebrate the whole month because of what we're doing virtually. And despite all of the successes we have had, which I'm really grateful for, I don't see it like that. I see it as like, especially for this whole month. For the first 10 days of this month, I literally spent 5 to 6 hours DMing people I want on board, DMing organizations, sending out emails, and it was all about that hustle, staying up late at night. And a lot of people we don't really show that when we're doing such interviews, or we don't really talk about that. But the real deal is right there. It's all about that grind. It's all about that hustle. It's all about putting in those hours to actually do what you believe in. And as young people, we sort of think things just happen overnight, but that's not how it works. You have to put in that effort. You have to be patient, as we talked about. You have to be consistent. You have to hustle to get there.
Yeah, that's also a great strategy in and of itself. Just batteries running low. Just DMing and emailing a ton of people, and you have a great story. I think the cool thing about you is you have this press about you and your stories out there. So when you do confront these people and you do message them, they're already bought in because they see the evidence, and that's what you said before, documentation. Another point I wanted to touch on before was you talked about you have to grow your mindset in order to grow this thing. I think that's a really, really unique point because oftentimes your purpose will push you into growing or reducing yourself. And I think you're an embodiment of, you continue to persist and you're able to get over and push through that obstacle or that wall. You'll come out the side a bigger person, a better person, and your mindset will grow and you'll be able to handle a ton of these things because, I'm sure you know this, but your world starts from within. So if you can believe that inside, then everything will work in your favor, as you said, outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you said it well. Something I also want to add is I want to talk about how, like, a lot of people have always asked me, Ziyaan, what are you getting out of this? You don't make any money out of this. I'm not getting paid. I do this voluntarily. So what do you get out of it? Do you want to do this in the future? How are you going to feed your family? All of those questions always come up. And I usually tell them that, again, just going back to the whole figuring out what your purpose is, figuring out how you want to measure success in life. I believe I'm altruistic, and I get this inner satisfaction when I'm able to make an impact on just one person, even if it's that one person watching this video today. It's just that inner satisfaction that keeps me going every day. And I know that, I don't know, making money or all of these things, they're just gonna come in its own. And that's never been the goal for me. For me, it's all about that impact, that one person. And that's what I hustle for and live for every day. And that's what that's what it's all been about.
Yeah. No, I completely, man. Completely. You're definitely doing that. And there's a quote that what you do when you're small is what's amplified when you're big. So I think that's a great value set to have, that you're living through. You just impact that one person, you'll impact the rest, and it'll work in your favor. As you said before, like you literally talked about the one principle. It's like you're focusing on impact, then the assets will come in, everything else will work out. But that's really awesome, man. Truly. And I think if you guys do want to ask any more questions, please do. But I kind of filled up my curiosity, and I'm gonna continue to follow you and what you do and support you, and hopefully one day I can do a little story about you, because it's really cool to see your growth. But is there anything else you wanted to say before any questions come in, or before we end the live as well?
I think I think we touched on a lot of points as in our conversation, but first I wanted to thank you for giving me this platform and actually believing in me. I feel like all of us are growing in this time, and it's important that we sort of come together and support one another to push ourselves and get what we want. Something I've realized over the last few days is, and as young people, we have this whole competitive mindset. We always want to be the ones standing out. We always want to be the ones, the only ones doing what we do. But people usually miss out on the power of collaborating and coming up with strategic partnerships. And that's something that's really missed out. And for me personally, in my journey, I would say that has been one of the top things that has got me to where I am. Strategic partnerships, collaborating with people in your field, and people that are not in your field, and seeing how you can best add value to each other. So an example would be when I started off on my own, I made packages that only last for 6 months, right? I could have continued doing that. Um, I didn't have that many expertise in stitching or innovating or things of that sort. So when I came across, obviously I continued networking, I continued talking about what I believe in, and I came across this group of women with disabilities, and they used to sort of also make reusable sanitary packages and a bunch of other things. They had this amazing, beautiful woman that actually, they just I'm just so happy to work with them. But what we did was I saw that they're already doing something of this sort, and I looked at our package and I was like, wow, this group has been doing it for years. How do I work with them and sort of figure out a win-win situation for both of us? So we sat down, we redesigned our packages. Now we are probably the only group that they work with in terms of making these packages. And it's just those strategic partnerships that actually got me to where I am. We changed the whole product, right? So people usually go for competition and not collaboration, and I think it's completely different. Like right now, especially during this whole COVID situation, um, we wanted to reach out to, as I mentioned, 2,500 girls, right? Um, but we couldn't do that because we were working in school and we had this whole thing. We all had to come back home. Um, but we still had our group of women that were stitching all these things. They took their machines at home. And that's when I realized it's the best time to partner up. So I reached out to different organizations that actually had access to go on ground and help some of these vulnerable menstruators. And right now, what we did was we made the packages, sent it via a bus to them, and they had access to all these groups, and they were actually able to go out. It was a win-win situation, and at the end of the day, we were able to make massive impact. And there was so much. I don't think that would have been possible if I just worked on trying to doing everything on myself.
Yeah.
Also, the point of there have been people in any field that you talk about. There have been people that have been in these industries for years, and they've had massive experience. And you have to have that mindset of always learning and always trying to grow, right? So these people, when you collaborate, you learn so much from them, and you're able to get some of their experiences and learn from them, and then make changes to what you're doing. And I think that's completely important. And that's something as young people, since we live in a very, I think, competitive world, and I feel like our generation's always trying to put themselves out there, and we want to put our best. But I think it's also important to collaborate and come together and support one another and always see how you can add value to others, but also see the value people add to you, and just learn and grow together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't. If I said anything more, it would subdue the great things you just said there. But seriously, I mean, you couldn't have put it better. And just people, I hope they take what you said, and just so they know as well, this is gonna be posted on YouTube. It'll be put on the podcast. They can continually reference it, and I'm really happy that you were able to hop on, and I'm excited to see you grow and hopefully collaborate in our own way in the future. But also grateful for Mir for connecting us. I'll hit him up
Yeah,
separately. But
yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
just yeah, he actually, one of his initiatives, I believe, is, I'm sure you guys talk about it, but you guys helping each other in some fashion. But he's doing great things. Love Mir. But yeah, for yourself, continue doing what you're doing. Please, everyone, follow him if you're on the live now. You're doing great work, and yeah, man. Let me know if you ever need anything.
Yeah.
But we'll do this again.
Obviously, yeah, thank you so much again. I think again, this is the best time where we need to support one another and give each other these platforms, and actually use our platforms to create that impact. I'm sure even if it's that one person that watched this video, this live today, and got something out of it, I think we have played our part, right?
Mhm.
And we have done a lot. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and sharing these stories, and giving people like me the platform to talk about some of the things that we believe in. And I'm looking forward to working with you again and doing a bunch of things together. But for now, thank you so much. And I'm really, really grateful we had this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. I know the ones who are here in the past that are gone, they're not here, but I'll acknowledge them uh, as they came. But yeah, I'll talk to you soon, though. Thank you guys. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Take
All
care,
right.
man. See you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Strong